Hello and welcome to another video tutorial Monday. Today I wanted to share some new stamp sets that I really wanted to use from Lawn Fawn, as well as just making a really cute baby card. So I figure lots of people need those kinds of cards all times of the year, so why not make one right now? So I'm using these two stamp sets from Lawn Fawn. This is Say Cheese and then this is Plus One. And I want to do the Polaroid frame as kind of like a frame of my scene for the baby card. So what I've done is I've taken this Polaroid stamp and I've just mounted it on a block. And I'm going to stamp that twice. Once on, or both times on vintage cream cardstock, but this one is to get the frame that I will cut out, and then this one is just to get a good estimate of the size of the frame so that I can work with the area underneath it. So I'm going to go ahead and ink up my stamp. Now you know that I'm a pretty big advocate of using a mouse pad or something underneath your project when you're stamping onto it. But for a stamp like this with an open space in the middle, the mouse pad actually could pick up some of this ink that you get when you accidentally ink the middle from the ink pad. So you actually should not use a mouse pad with this kind of stamp. Nevertheless, I still enjoy using a mouse pad for most types of stamping. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp down. I'm going to cut it out, so it doesn't need to be straight on here by any means. I just need to make sure to get a good impression. Alright, looks like a pretty good impression. I missed a little bit here, but that's okay. I can always go back in with a marker and fix that. So I'm going to set this stamp off. Actually, first, before I set it off to the side, I just want to stamp this. I'm not even going to re-ink it. I'm just going to stamp it down as it is to get an idea of the size of the frame and what area I need to fill. And you can see it left a nice gray impression here. So that works perfectly. That way if I have it a little bit off kilter, you won't be able to even see it under the color that I'm going to put on it. So now what I have to do is cut out this frame. And it's not perfectly straight, just because that's how, if it was perfectly straight, it would look probably too rigid. So I'm going to go ahead and actually cut it out with a pair of scissors. You could, of course, use a paper trimmer if you're more comfortable with that, but I like to use scissors when I cut this frame out. And I try to make the corners a little bit rounded as well. Okay, and I also need to cut out the inside of this frame. So, since I'm going to have it popped off the page. So what I'm going to do is take an X-Acto knife and just cut an X through the middle. And that will help me get my scissors in there so I can cut it out. And you just kind of follow the side of it. And once again, you don't have to be perfect with this. That's what's one of the things that's so nice about Lawn Fawn stamps, is they're so easy to use. You really can't go wrong with them. And you know, if you stamp it incorrectly the first time, just stamp it again. Alright, so I have the frame cut out. And then before I do anything else, I just want to go back with a pen and color over this little area that I missed. This is also your chance to kind of color in some areas where you didn't quite cut close enough, or things like that. So you can use a pen to fill in areas to really make it look like you did it exactly perfect every time. So I have my frame all ready to go, and I'm just going to set this off to the side because it's ready now. And I'm going to cut out this frame, and I'm just going to cut within the outside line since this area will be covered up. You don't want to go outside of the line because the frame won't cover it. But you can leave a nice gap around the outside so you can color all the way up to the edge and you get a really seamless look. So next, what I want to do is just figure out which way this goes, and I think it actually is a square. but I'm going to write bottom on this portion of it just so I can keep it straight all the time. And next what I'm going to do this stork image on the inside of the frame. So I'm going to do the little stork right about here, and this way it'll be going off the frame a little bit, but it'll look really natural. Because if you stamp him right in the middle, it almost looks like he's just stuck there. This gives him some movement when you put him off to the side. So, I can ink up my stamp. Since this is the first time I'm using this stamp, I'm going to stamp it off once first, just to make sure. Looks good. Okay, so now that I have my stamp inked once, it'll work a lot better the second time. And we can stamp down right about here. Just wiggle it a little bit. Perfect impression. Wow, that's amazing. Okay, and actually what I'm also going to do is use the image that I stamped before as a tester image out on my sheet here and cut it out to use as a mask for when I do the sky behind the little stork. So I'm just going to cut that out. Alright, so now that I have this little guy cut out, I can go ahead and color him in. I guess it's a boy. Color him in, and I have, for everything here, I have purples for the bag. It's going to be a boy card, but I didn't want to do it all in blue, so I'm using purple. And I have V01 and V06 for that. Then I have my colorless blender, just in case I mess up. And then for the stork, I have T1, T3, and T4, and then Y21 for the beak. So I'm going to go ahead and color in the stork first, and I'll just speed this up. I'll just be going from light, and then to medium, and then to dark, and then using the lighter color every time to blend it in. I'm really not doing that much blending with this, but I wanted to make it kind of dimensional. So that's what I'm doing. Okay, now that I've colored that in with my Copics, it looks really good, except right here I went back with my colorless blender to take out some of the color that had bled out, and it wasn't dry yet, so it bled some more. So I'm going to need to fix that, but I have to wait for it to dry, and that's when it stops feeling cool to the touch, which right now it still feels cool. So I have to wait for that to dry first before I can do anything else. So I'll be back in a second after I wait for this to dry. Okay, so I fixed my little stork guy. I actually just ended up stamping it again and recoloring it because it was a lot easier. The bleeding got out of control. So what I did instead for the bag was use the lighter purple, which is V1, and then went back with T3 and T4 actually for the shadows, because it seemed like the darker purple was causing the bleeding troubles. So I just got rid of it completely. Not a big deal. So next what I'm going to do is use my little mask, little stork guy, and put some two-way glue on him. This is by Zig. And this helps me get in all of the little detail places that regular repositionable adhesive wouldn't let me do. And the trick to this is just letting it dry for almost a minute before you put it on your project. That way it will peel up pretty well, kind of like a sticky note. So while that's getting ready, I'm going to go ahead and start working on my background. And for this, I have some Spring Rain cardstock from Paper Ink, cut down to a regular size card vertically, and this Cuttlebug embossing folder, polka dots. And what I'm going to do is actually put this folder so that the dots end exactly on the crease. And for that you just need to kind of get over it and look to see where the dots line up with the crease. And when it looks even, you can just close the folder, hold it nice and tight, and this way you only get dots where we want them. So we have our folder, and now we can go ahead and run it through the Sizzix Big Shot. And you can use Cuttlebug folders with the Big Shot. You don't have to stick with the same brand. You just flip up the first tab, put in the plate, put in your embossing folder, and then place this plate on top of it, and then you can go ahead and run it through. And you can see we have right up to the card line, we have perfect embossing. So I'm going to put my Sizzix away. And now that we have this embossed, our little stork guy is actually ready to be glued down on top of our colored stork. And you don't need to worry about getting the mask exactly perfect, just covering up the areas that are colored. And we're going to use first of all, we're going to punch out some clouds from this same type paper. This is the large cloud punch from Fiskars. And I'm just going to punch out 3 because I like things in 3s. And then I can just use my regular repositionable adhesive with these. And so now that we have those adhered down, we can go in with tumbled glass and broken china distress ink, and just going very lightly over the masks. When you reveal the masks, you'll be able to see the effect really well because of the clouds. So you don't need to go crazy with the distress ink unless that's the look you want. And you'll also notice that I didn't cover up the legs here because they're just black lines. They won't show the distress ink on them. And then I'm going to go in with the broken china as well, focusing this more on the bottom. Since darker colors tend to fall more towards the bottom, they give you a heavier graphic weight. So just blend that up, and you want to make it look pretty seamless. So you can see there's no harsh lines in between the two colors. And now, simple as that, we can take off our masks. And our little stork is ready. So, now we can put everything all together. First I want to stamp my sentiment on my frame, so I'm going to stamp Bundle of Joy on the way, and this is also from the +1 stamp set. I just have it pre-mounted on my block, but they're actually 2 separate stamps. And now we can go ahead and adhere this to our little stork image. So what we want to do for that is actually I'm going to just glue it with regular adhesive, and this will give me the chance to really get into these narrow edges. So I'm just using my Zig 2-way glue pen again, but this time I'm going to use it when it's wet. And I really like this pen for paper piecing, which is essentially what we're doing, just a little bit more complicated. Because when you're doing thin areas like this, you don't want the glue, you know, gushing out into the middle where you'd see it. So what we're going to do is try to line it up the best we can. And we have that previous stamped frame to guide us there. So there's our cute little Polaroid. Oh, I just love it. And now we can get ready to put it on our card. So I'm going to take the background that we stamped. We're just going to use the broken china around the edges of these dots to really make them pop, almost to give it like a two-toned look. And the embossed dots will take the ink better than the regular dots, or than the background. Now you can kind of see the card coming together. We'll put this right here, and I'm just going to use some dimensional adhesive on that. So we can put our little Polaroid like this on the card, a little bit off kilter. And press it down really well because you need the areas to adhere to not just the embossed dots, otherwise they'll come off. And now just for the finishing touch, I want to do some ribbon across here, which comes in a roll of 100 yards, so I never feel bad about using a lot of it. Okay, so I have my little ribbon tied, and now as a final touch, I want to stamp this stamp from Hero Arts. It's from the CL520 Live and Laugh stamp set, and it's Bring on the Happy. And I think that's kind of a really cool sentiment to have for, you know, congratulations. You know, we just heard that you were expecting, or something like that. So I'm going to ink this up with my same ink that I've been using over the whole card, Memento Black. And then just stamp it up here, right in the middle. And then at the bottom, I just want to do a little quick border of some paper that maybe coordinates. So let me find something that has some purple and some blue in it. So I found this pattern paper from the My Mind's Eye Stella and Rose Hattie papers, and I think this will go pretty well with the card. It doesn't have purple in it like I wanted, but that's okay. It has gray and blue. So I'm just going to ink up the edges with my broken china distress ink. And I just felt like this card needed a little bit more, which is why I'm adding stuff to the inside. Usually I don't add things to the inside, just write my message. But I've had several questions recently that have asked what I do to the inside of my cards. So if I ever do something to the inside of my cards, I definitely show it. Unless it's really personal, but I don't think I've ever done something like that. So I can go ahead and adhere this. And then just adhere it to the inside of the card. So that adds a nice little surprise on the inside that goes along with the gray and the blue on the front. And you can just write a short little sweet message right here and maybe put a heart in the corner or something like that. So that's the card for this week. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you learned some cool little new tricks. And I will catch you again next week for another Video Tutorial Monday.